Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome or welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today we are making pastéis de nata. Now these are a perfect breakfast treat that'll transport your taste buds to the streets of Lisbon, where they are a staple in every bakery. So let's get started. Let's jump right into the recipe, starting off with making the custard. In a medium-sized sauce pot, we want to whisk in the 1 cup of whole milk with 2/3 cups of heavy cream, a 1/4 cup of granulated white sugar, and 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Whisking those until they're well combined, set over medium-low heat, or 249 degrees Fahrenheit or 120 degrees Celsius. You want to continue to whisk this until the mixture has thickened slightly, which should take about 5 minutes. And so while that's warming up, separately in a medium-sized bowl, we want to whisk together 3 large egg yolks with 3 tablespoons worth of sweetened condensed milk and 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Whisking those as well until they're well combined. At this point, our hot milk mixture should have warmed up, and we want to slowly pour this into our egg mixture bowl while constantly whisking this to prevent the eggs from cooking. Now you want to pour the custard back into the pot and place a large cinnamon stick into the pot as well, and stir this mix for 4 minutes over the same medium-low heat. This allows enough time for the cinnamon flavor to infuse into your custard. Now you want to transfer this to an easily pourable measuring cup and cover the measuring cup with plastic wrap and place this in the fridge for about 2 hours or until it's completely cooled. And while that's chilling, we want to make our tart. And before we start making our tart, we want to be sure to have the butter we're using at room temperature so that it is easily spreadable. In a medium-sized bowl or the bowl of a stand mixer, we want to knead together 1 cup's worth of all-purpose flour with 3/4 teaspoons of kosher salt, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, 5 tablespoons of water, and 1/2 tablespoon of our butter. Kneading those together for about 3 to 5 minutes or until a soft and manageable dough forms. It should not be too sticky. If it is too sticky, add a little more flour. Now you want to form the dough into a dome and wrap this in plastic wrap and allow this to chill in the fridge for about 1 hour. Once the dough is rested, we want to transfer this to a lightly floured working surface. And if you're using a small working surface, you want to cut the dough mound in half first. You'll see why that's important as we move through this recipe. And while we work with 1/2 of the dough at a time, we want to make sure that we wrap the other half in plastic wrap and chill that until we're ready to use it. Now you want to roll out this dough into a very wide, thin sheet. This can be done either using a floured rolling pin or a pasta machine. I have a pasta machine at home and I love using it in these occasions. If you're using one, you can start by running the dough through the thickest setting and keep running the dough through the pasta machine until it reaches the thinnest setting. With using a floured rolling pin instead, you want to make sure that you're always lightly dusting it and turning it and flipping it as you go. You just have to be careful as you roll it out thinly, as it is very delicate and you don't want to tear it too much. Once you have your dough into a nice thin setting as you see here, you want to fold this thin dough onto itself twice and then wrap this in plastic wrap to prevent the dough from drying out. And you want to repeat this rolling process with the second half of dough as well. Each sheet should have a rectangle shape. One direction should be shorter than the other. Now on a well-floured working surface, we want to lay down our dough sheets out flat and use an offset spatula to spread the butter across both top surfaces of the sheets. In total, we're going to need about 1/2 cup's worth of unsalted butter that is clearly at room temperature, as we want it to be easily spread along this thin surface. If it's chilled somewhat, it's going to start to rip and shred the dough, and we want to limit that as much as possible. Now that the dough has been buttered, starting with 1 sheet, we want to roll the dough from the short end, making sure that the first roll is tight. Continue to roll along the length of the sheet, and the ends of the roll may extend outside the roll. If so, you want to tuck them into the roll and keep rolling. Once the first roll is created, place it on the second sheet of dough and keep rolling that as well. A tip when rolling to create tight folds is to pull the log towards you as you roll it. And while you're doing the rolling process, you want to make sure you have your oven preheated to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius. You want to rub the outside of the roll with whatever remaining butter you have left in your bowl. This will help the tarts not stick to the pan. You don't need much butter for this part. Now, with our roll, using a sharp knife, you want to slice the roll into 14 equally sized discs. They should be about half an inch thick. Here we want to place a single disc into its own separate egg tart mold or a muffin tin. You want to dip your fingers in water and gently spread the dough from the center along the rim of the mold. Continue to wet your fingers throughout this process to prevent the dough from sticking. You want to aim for a slightly thinner base than the edges, but make sure not to break the dough or the custard will seep through. Here we want to place all 14 prepared egg tart molds onto a baking sheet if you're using molds. If you're using a muffin tin, don't worry about this step, but you want to make sure that they're all spaced apart pretty evenly. Now you want to pour our prepared custard into each shell, filling them to the top. Transfer this baking sheet to the middle rack of the oven and bake these initially for about 10 minutes. Now you want to switch on your broiler to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius and broil these for 4 to 6 minutes or until the tops have become golden brown and caramelized. Alternatively, you can always use a handheld torch to caramelize the tops of the pastéis de nata as well. You want to remove them from the oven and allow them to cool for about 5 minutes before removing them from the molds. I like collecting them all onto a large serving platter and they're ready to be served and enjoyed. Congrats, you've made one amazing breakfast dish right at home. When I first tried these in Portugal, I fell in love. Everywhere I went, I looked to find if they had pastel de nata. It is really tasty. I can't wait for you guys to try it at home. If you don't want to make your own dough for this recipe, you can always use frozen phyllo dough instead of making your own dough. And this saves a lot of time. To boost the flavor even more, I like dusting them with either powdered sugar or ground cinnamon on top if you desire. But when you do try this at home, be sure to tag me at Chef Vic Cuisine or hashtag Chef Vic Cuisine so I can see your great takes on this dish. As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 4, Enhancing Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. And feel free to click the pop-up on your screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed learning how to make pasteis de nata, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button for me. It's one of the best ways to show support for this channel. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button too to see more recipes just like this one. And sharing is caring, so if you enjoyed this recipe and think someone else will too, feel free to share this with all your family and friends. And stay tuned for next week where I show you how to make a Brazilian cheese bread. It's really easy and it tastes great. I can't wait for you guys to try that one too. Well, thanks again for watching. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. You can always check out more recipes on my page now. YouTube thinks you'll like these videos, so let's see if they're right. And I'll catch you next time on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine. And until then, peace.